Hi, I'm Mitchell Chadrow, your host on this show, 054. We're talking with Brady Acton. Brady's an inventor. He's an entrepreneur, Forbes Under 30 Scholar, Pico Innovator of the Year semifinalist, and now he's with Appdotly Consulting. He actually went to school at London School of Economics and Political Science. Please sign up to my email list for the latest special offers exclusive for our Listenup Show Startup Entrepreneur Podcast audience at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. I have been providing business advice, resources, and help to entrepreneurs for over 20 years, and I'm looking forward to helping all of you. Sign up for my email list, again, at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. I will provide you with full transcript for each interview, my ebook, 30 Tools to Start Up, the Startup Checklist, and many other education and training materials, all back at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. You can find the show notes at mitchellchadrow.com/show054. Now enjoy the show. So, Brady, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing super. Hey, thanks so much for coming on the Listen Up show. I see here that you were a Division I athlete. You played baseball in the Big East Conference?
Yep, I did. I was recruited to play baseball out of South Florida in the Big East for Villanova, and played there for a while, and then I went my own way with entrepreneurship.
So tell me a little bit about it. It says here that you actually operated a multi-million-dollar value tech startup, and you were able to also get funding for that. So can you take us through and tell us a little bit about how you were able to sort of do that?
Sure. So I guess I would go back to when I was fresh into college. I built an app out of my dorm room, and I really had no experience with app development. It was just something I was really interested in and became a passion and what I really wanted to do. And it took a while, but I got it done, and lo and behold, it ended up becoming more successful than I thought. And then I took that experience and any resources or capital I made in that experience and co-founded a company my sophomore year of college. I believe I was about 19 or 20. And we raised a seed round from an angel investor and then later venture capital from Ben Franklin Technology Partners. So I was sophomore in college, playing Division I baseball and going to school as a full-time student and scaling a startup. So that's really how it started, and it kind of got to the point where it was getting too big where I couldn't do everything at once. So I took more of a backseat role. They're still operating out of Philadelphia. They have an office on Market Street, and from what I hear, they're doing great. So be happy.
So tell me the name of that company, that app, and sort of how you sort of developed that idea and how you came to sort of Ben Franklin and some of the other venture firms to sort of fund the startup.
Yeah, so I initially had this idea actually in high school for a social network, and it won some big competition. It was called the Patesh Entrepreneurial Competition. It was for only students, I believe, either high school, master, or undergrad, masters, et cetera. You had to be a student, and there were about 150 entries, and I think I finished second overall. So I pitched in New York, and it was really something I wanted to build, but it got to the point where I didn't have the know-how or the resources or the capital to build a social network. So I found that the easiest thing to code and build was a game, and it was called Fish Feast 3D, and I built it my freshman year. I had no experience, really no money or anything, and I just was reaching out to a bunch of people and asking if they would help fund it and help me build it, et cetera. And I actually found my high school freshman baseball coach who was a serial entrepreneur, and he really wanted to build an app. So we went in 50-50 on that. I didn't have the money at the beginning, but I put all my savings, which wasn't much, especially for a 17, 18-year-old kid, but I put it all in the stock market and got a pretty good return. And I put all that money into the app, and it should have taken about 3 or 4 months to develop, but I think it took about 7 or 8. And then I launched it, got all my friends on it, launched a marketing campaign, told my school about it, and ended up becoming a front page article in the Philadelphia Inquirer in the business section, and then got picked up by a bunch of other outlets. I believe it was 30 plus, close to 40. And then I got contacted by someone that was starting up TriviaNote, which was the company I started sophomore year, and they needed someone to grow the business and design the platform. So
our startup round. Students, business owners, those individuals out there who want to start up something new, They need a presence online, and they need a web hosting company that they can trust and they can count on, and that's reliable and helpful. So what did I do? I teamed up with the good folks at Hosting, where they offer my podcast audience 25% off their web hosting package. Check them out at mitchellchadrow.com/hosting. That's mitchellchadrow.com/hosting. Start your plan today. So let's talk about that first app. You mentioned that you didn't really have a lot of experience. There's a lot of people out there that are coming up with ideas. They think that it's a good idea, but they don't have a lot of know-how in terms of how to build, let's say, whether it be an app or the business itself. So what did you do along with your teacher that you went in on the first app with, given the fact that you didn't have a lot of coding experience? You had some money. Tell me about how much money then you made from the stock market to be able to put in. How much did your teacher put in? And then how did you find someone to be able to help you build it, given the fact that you didn't have that skill set?
Yes. So the key with that was the money aspect, because neither myself or my partner were coders. So we knew we had to outsource. And we were lucky to find someone through a website called freelancer.com. There's more of them now, but it was one of the original ones. And it's really a website where you can find freelancers on just about anything. And we found one on app development, and he was a good fit and everything. And I believe version 1 costed around $1,000 to $1,500, and then I was lucky to get in contact with a designer. The version 1 design was kind of terrible. But
so who did you go to help you design it, and then what would you recommend for that person today to sort of start up and build up that doesn't have a lot of let's say resources in the beginning to sort of get started?
Yeah. So back then there really weren't many resources. I pretty much had to find someone with design experience also for as cheap as possible. And being a typical entrepreneur, I just kept looking, and I found that actually he more or less approached me because he heard about what we were doing, and he was a friend of a friend. He was actually my baseball coach's brother's best friend from college, and he had design experience. He was from South Florida. He was a South Florida guy just like all of us, and he had a ton of design experience, and he basically did it for he traded his work for one of my partner's televisions. So it wasn't a monetary. It was basically, I'll give you my TV. I'm moving out of my apartment if you help us design this app, and that's where it was.
So it was almost like a barter, like a trade almost.
Yeah, and that's the key with entrepreneurship. The most important thing is cash. To actually grow your company and build your company is cash, and whatever you can get done without giving up cash. It could be exchange of ideas or knowledge, or even a television in my case. Anything you can give that doesn't really have much cash value is key, and I was lucky enough to find that. But nowadays, there's a ton of resources out there for people that don't have design experience. There's a company called Canva, Canva, where they give you basically pre-made mock-ups or different designs to create an app or a website, and you can just go in there and create them yourself. It's a really simple tool, but I don't think I had that back then, or at least I wasn't aware of it. But nowadays it's a lot easier.
Well, I had a show, my show 006, where we talk about 30 startup tools, and that's actually one of the websites that we actually feature because it is so powerful. And even the free version is extremely powerful, so you don't have to spend a lot to get a lot.
For sure, definitely. I wish I knew about it, or I'm not even sure it was around back then, but I wish I had it.
So before you get to the next app, when you're a sophomore in college, what actually happens to this first app? Is this the one that you said that is still up and running, or tell us a little bit about how much money you're making, how you were able to sort of scale it up, and then of course with this next app, how you were able to sort of get that funding from Ben Franklin and some of the other venture funds that were able to invest in your company.
Yeah, sure. So I actually get the question a lot. Was your app successful? How was it doing, et cetera? And when I set out to make an app or start a new project, there's always a goal in mind, but it's not necessarily a monetary goal, especially when I was a freshman in college. My goal with my first app was to learn how to do it, build up a network, build credibility, and pretty much figure out the whole process and become a somewhat refined entrepreneur and then go into my next startup. So it wasn't an end-all, be-all. I didn't set out to make a ton of money, be the next Mark Zuckerberg, et cetera. It was really a stepping stone, and I think I reached that goal because I went on to TriviaNote and other things, and looking back, it was probably my most successful, even though it wasn't monetary success. So,
why don't you think it was a monetary success? Given what you know now, you didn't want to somehow go back and sort of redo things or remarket it in some way to see if it could make potential monetary value for you?
No, I mean, honestly, I was right as I was launching Fish Feast, I was getting into TriviaNote, and I knew this would be more of a monetary return than Fish Feast. I mean, it was a game that it was fun to play. It was pretty interesting and innovative, but I didn't really foresee it being, top on the App Store. I would have had to put a lot more money into it, and it wasn't getting the monetary return that I wanted. I wasn't really familiar back then with how to monetize an app like I am now, and
yeah. So what happened to your teacher partner? How much money did he put in, and how much money were both of you out at that point?
We're probably out $1,000 or $2,000. It wasn't a monetary success, but it was a success in that he also wasn't trying to pull a huge return. He thought it was a fun thing to do. I mean, he's a multi-million-dollar valued entrepreneur. He's not really looking to, with some college kid create the next Facebook. He just wasn't. He just wanted to build it, and that was we had that common goal in mind, and that's what we set out to do. It was a fun thing to do. I wanted to get the experience and use it as a stepping stone and whatever. I knew there would be more opportunities down the road, and we achieved that goal, and then we went on to other things, and that was it. So it's still in the App Store. I believe it has about 4.5 out of 5 stars. So the people that play it, they kind of like it, but
so it's free. It's free to download, and you don't monetize it in any way with advertising or any other means of revenue, correct?
There's in-app purchases still, so we still get an okay revenue per day. We don't partner with Google or Apple like we did once with the advertisements. We used to have advertisements at the bottom and had an okay return from that, but there's still in-app purchases because we didn't really want to go back and change all the code because that would have taken a lot more money. And it still brings in a decent amount, but it wasn't something that we were trying to create a revenue machine out of.
So your next app, you mentioned TriviaNote. That's the one that started taking off when you were a sophomore in college. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you were able to then parlay some of that knowledge that you got from the first app to the next app?
Yeah, sure. So TriviaNote was an AI platform, artificial intelligence, that was able to take students' notes and study materials and automatically create quizzes, flashcards, and games out of them. So they would take notes on their laptop, and then the back-end AI, it was natural language processing, would process all the inputs, all the text, and throw back quizzes and flashcards and games at them. So it was an alternative way of learning. The value proposition was that the existing platform that most people use, Quizlet, took too much time to input all the data manually. So how Quizlet works is it's primarily flashcards and different learning games and I guess quizzes, but the person would have to input all the data themselves manually, and it took a lot of time. And college students don't have a lot of time particularly, and they don't want to spend a lot of time manually inputting, so we did it automatically ourselves through the back-end AI. And I specifically designed the user interface and user experience, which is what I learned from Fish Feast, which is all about the front end. I don't want to get too technical, but it's
too technical, sure.
Yeah, it's everything you see and interact with on the computer. It's what happens when you click this, where does it go, and so I did.
So that's more of the abstract design, sketching, yeah. but it's not the actual coding itself, and so. At some point, you can only do so many things. I mean, we've talked to entrepreneurs here that said there are a few things that you can outsource, like sales, like managing the process internally in terms of how things move, like the customer service. But other things like coding, for example, you weren't still doing that yourselves, correct? You were outsourcing that continually?
So most of the startups nowadays actually it's usually a combination of the two. The core product, our algorithm, the back end was done internally. It was just easier that way because we could reiterate quicker and much cheaper. But
tell me a little bit about, tell us a little bit about how you were able to actually do that, because there are people right now listening, whether they're in college, they've just graduated, they're going from high school into college, and they're thinking about obviously starting an app or starting a business. So, given what you know today, what are some of the things practical that you're able to sort of implement right away and do with not a lot of money, let's say? So there's a lot of people that are obviously bootstrapping.
Right. Well, what I tell people is I refer to Airbnb, who outsource their entire first product. Outsourcing is incredibly cheap nowadays. I mean, there's games I see on the App Store that are pulling in millions and millions of dollars that they could have made for $800 to $1,000.
And who's helping them do this? So who am I reaching out? Let's say I'm deciding to obviously start my own app, and I have a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I don't know how to code. I don't want to put a ton of money into this thing, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time coding and learning how to code, let's say.
Yep.
So what are some of the practical things? Who do I sort of pick up the phone and contact? Where do I go? What are some of the steps that I can do right away to sort of get a good jump over the next 3 to 4 months?
Right. Well, there's really 3 different categories of outsourcing, I would say. The first one is hiring an individual freelancer to do the entire project. The second is hiring a team of freelancers to work together. And then third, hiring an agile team, which usually comes in the form of a development company that specializes in developing people's apps. And depending on how much money you have, what I just named was pretty much an order of lowest to highest price. So an individual freelancer, these guys usually charge per project or per hour. I try to stay away from per hour because I can't oversee how much time they're spending and if they're really, contributing in a very efficient way and effective way also. So they might just be, just messing around and racking up the hours. So I like to charge on a per project basis. And that's usually the cheapest. An app would typically cost, I would say that a game is probably the cheapest, would cost anywhere from $800 to $1,200 on average. Once you get into more complex coding like a social network, I would say to recreate the Facebook app would probably be
What if it's not a social network? What if it's just merely, take any industry, it doesn't matter, hospitals or whatever, and I want to, my criteria is one that's 10 miles from my house, that's rated at least 4 out of 5 stars, that has a certain number of beds and with various criteria, and I want to basically sort these, from state to state, city to city. I mean, something as basic and as simplistic as that, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to sort of go down this reiteration where every single time I'm going back to the coder, they're obviously continually charging me more and more and more, and I'm sort of going down this rabbit hole. So what is the best way to sort of proceed as it relates to that in terms of what you can advise people that are listening?
Well, what I tell people about outsourcing is I think it should be the last case scenario. I think the best way to go is to insource your technology, your core product, because there's something called the lean methodology, which I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with. But
sure, no, we've talked about it. We've talked about the lean startup, of course, and so with that in mind, but what you're indicating is that you're assuming then that the person has the ability to sort of either code or sort of be able to do these things in-house, or doesn't necessarily have the ability to, let's say, hire someone full-time to come in-house to basically be able to do that. They have the ability to do sales, they have the ability to do customer support and service, but let's just say that they can't code, for example.
Yeah.
So are there practical solutions out there in terms of where you would go to find somebody? I mean, you indicated that you went to the website to find an outsourcer. Who's to say what you would do today to try to find someone in 2017?
Yeah. Well, I would really, when I consult people on their projects, I ask them, are you trying to create a project, like something, just a lifestyle thing you really want to do it, or are you trying to create an actual startup? If they're going to create a startup and it's a tech product, they're going to need someone on the team that has tech experience, just because it's really hard to iterate and reiterate and keep the cost down if you're continually outsourcing. But if you want to just create a project and then maybe go into startup later. The best case scenario is to find a freelancer, charge them per project to get your idea done.
Well, where do you go to find a good freelancer?
I think the best place is freelancer.com. There's another one called TopTal, TOPTAL.com, and then Upwork is another one, UPWORK.com.
Sure. No, we've heard of all three, but I'll definitely have links to all of those. So moving a little bit further, you've obviously started this. How were you able to get funding for this particular app? And were you able to sort of go it alone at this point? You didn't have any partners or any team members?
For TribuNote?
Correct?
Yeah, for TribuNote. So one thing that investors look at is what's known as the 3 T's, and that's tech, team, or traction. So you can have just one of the 3 and get investment, and I think we had 2 of the 3. We had traction and we had the tech. Our team was a little bit inexperienced and unseasoned. We were really college students, but it was kind of the same thing as Zuckerberg's Facebook, that we were getting a lot of traction within universities. So we were contacted by one of our mentors, Eamon Gallagher, who actually has a startup incubator in Philadelphia, and he has all these connections to investors, and we got a meeting with Ben Franklin Technology Partners and pitched them, and went well, and we ended up getting investment because we had the tech. Our back-end AI was pretty innovative and I would say revolutionary, even though that's kind of a buzzword nowadays. But we also had we had the tech, and then we also had the traction. So we were showing growth year to year, month to month, and that's how we got investment.
So the first people that were using this, was it at Villanova where you actually went to school?
Yeah, so we did the whole lean startup methodology, starting off with a minimally viable product. We gave it out to a bunch of Villanova students, a pretty small sample size relative to the university itself, but we launched an MVP, and then we got feedback, reiterated, and launched our final product, I believe, March of 2016. Yeah, that sounds right. And then we continued to iterate, and we're probably on version 4 or 5 right now.
Mm-hmm. And how are you doing in terms of revenue, and how much share did you give away to your investors? How did you structure that?
Yeah, so with the angel round, it was actually a convertible note, which means that it's a delayed equity deal. So an investor will put in a certain amount of money into the company and then won't get a certain % of the company until the next funding round, because this helps the entrepreneurs. So if they have a first round of investment and there's a strict equity deal, they get an automatic valuation. But if they don't pull the numbers in, if they don't do as well as they thought, to find the next investment, they might be overvalued, and it might be impossible to get investment. So we had no valuation. It was just a convertible note deal. And then when we raised from Ben Franklin Technology, that note transferred into equity for the original investor. And then Ben Franklin Technology Partners, they have a slightly unique funding method where they more or less give a loan that you don't have to pay back. They're just looking for a certain % of their investments to turn over and give them a good return on that. So it really wasn't the standard way of raising investment where we just do a strict equity deal. It's convertible note and then more or less a loan from Ben Franklin Technology Partners.
Well, it sounds as if you not only had someone helping you, whether it be to negotiate the deal, structure the deal. It sounds like you don't have a CPA or a tax background or a legal background. So can you tell us all about those resources? Because they all obviously cost money, and there's a lot of people out there that are obviously looking for funding and want to sort of do it in such a way that they're not spending tens of thousands of dollars while trying to bootstrap and get funding to sort of take the business to the next level. So how were you able to do all of that?
Yeah, so actually a lot of firms understand that startups aren't very cash flow positive or don't have a lot of cash on hand until way later down the road. So a lot of firms offer startup packages where they write off all the expenses, and the early expenses in a startup are usually incorporation documents, bylaws, different tax, I guess returns and things like that a lot of firms will actually write off. So you can pretty much start a company with almost no money going towards lawyer fees.
Help us to understand that by giving concrete examples. This is the firm that you use. This is who you actually worked with, because I know that attorneys are obviously in business business to obviously make money, lawyers, law firms. And so how are you able to then approach somebody? Can you take us through that? Because I know that there are people out there that obviously want to do this and get to that point, and they don't know how it actually works and how you could actually approach the professionals to sort of structure it so that it's feasible for you to sort of get moving.
Yeah, so I mean, just on the websites, most firms I found in Philadelphia have something called, or something similar to a startup package, where they'll have everything they write off. It typically depends on the firm, but pretty much all of them in their startup packages write off incorporation documents to actually get the company going, any business licenses you may need, any sort of equity structures with your co-founders, like vesting and things like that, and pretty much anything to get the company up and running. So
who would help you actually structure the deal with Ben Franklin? Because wouldn't that be above and beyond a startup, just a mere startup package?
Yeah, we were a little bit down the road from there, so we were bringing in revenue, so we had the money to actually hire a lawyer, and that was not written off by our original law firm. So we had to actually hire a lawyer and structure the deal and make sure all the co-founders were happy with it and, dilute the stock and all the technical things that come with raising money.
So who are all your partners today in the company, and how is it structured?
So there's three co-founders. First one is the CEO, Paul Santola. He's a Villanova graduate. And then the second one was Evan Meagle, and he graduated from St. Joe's. And then myself, largest share owner was Paul Santola, and then Evan, and then myself third. And any other sort of equity that's been given out has been strictly to investors, so only three co-founders have retained any equity.
Now, you're actually now doing consulting for Deloitte. So how did you make that decision not be in the business day to day and maybe do consulting for another organization?
Well, it's really where I'm at, I would say, in my life right now. What I really like about consulting is traveling, getting exposure to a lot of different industries and projects, gaining a lot of connections and increasing my network. Everything that I found difficult when I was working 12, 14 hours a day with my head in my computer running a startup, I just enjoy consulting because I'm constantly moving. When I was doing my startups, there was a lot of technical things on the computer, so I would just be glued to my computer screen pretty much all day. There wasn't really much moving around, whereas in consulting I get to meet a lot of people, help a lot of people, get a lot of exposure, travel, etc. It's really everything that I didn't get, but I'm also doing tech consulting, so I'm helping startups and small companies grow their companies through any sort of tech problems they have.
So TriviNote, the company, your company, that you're not physically working in day to day, what is the name of that company, and what other apps besides TriviNote do you have, or what other assets does that for-profit company have to date?
TriviNote's still called TriviNote. They're doing.
So is that the name? But is that the name of the company as well?
Yep, it's TriviNote Inc. So it's
okay
on all the papers. Yeah.
And is there any other products? I mean, obviously that's your first product. Have you added assets to TriviNote Inc.?
We've added features to the actual platform.
Okay.
So before version 1, it was just strictly quizzes, so quizzing people on their notes or whatever they inserted into the field that they want to be quizzed on. And then we added flashcards and then other games. So we're continuing to iterate on the actual products. We don't have, what they call a house of brands where we have more than one product. It's TriviNote. We're trying to make it the best product possible.
So who runs the business day to day right now? Like, how many employees do you have? What are the revenues? I mean, how does that look given the fact that, I don't know if the other two founders are involved day to day, but obviously you're not, as you sort of split your time between maybe that and Deloitte.
Yeah, so I'm not really a part of the day-to-day operations anymore. It's really run by Paul Santola and Evan Meagle, and I believe they have interns or a few people working for them. They've hired another CTO, and I think they've brought on a few other people, but I'm not exactly sure what their income statement looks like or really what's going on there. I pretty much left after my junior year of college, and I actually joined another startup called Orai, which I think you had Danish Dhamani on your show.
Ah, yes, show 052. So You actually helped Danish with that product?
Yeah. So actually, I was the first designer of the product. I was brought on to create version 1 of both the mobile application and the web application, and then after I finished that, I was what was referred to as the lead growth strategist, which I was basically the CMO, and I helped out with all the marketing and all the marketing research and was with them for a while. So I left Trivino, and I was more involved with Orai at that point.
I see. So, but you still have an equity stake, though, in Trivino, Inc., correct? I mean, so how are you, given the fact that you're not taking, let's say, a salary because you're not really working there, so to speak, how is it set up so that you can sort of, gain profits or however that money stream is coming to you? Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because there are people out there who are working full time, they do have an idea, they do want to start it up, and yet they're not able to sort of balance and separate their life, so to speak, like you've been able to do in having this business on the side, so to speak, and working for someone else. So how are you compensated from the organization, from the company?
Well, when I consult people, I usually tell them that it's a lot different working for equity than it is working for a contract for cash. For Orai, I worked strictly for cash, and then Trivino, I worked for equity, and that when you own equity, it's pretty much your life because you actually have a fiduciary duty similar to what a doctor has to maximize shareholder value, and that includes your investors, your partners, yourself, etc. So it really consumed most of my life, whereas
Sure, but sometimes when you're actually working, I mean, obviously until it really makes a profit, at some point when it starts to become profitable, you can sometimes obviously take a salary. In this case, where you're not physically working there day in and day out, you're still an equity shareholder. So how are you? I mean, it's a passive investment for you at this point, correct? I mean, how are you? Are you getting a monthly check from that investment, or is it worth your while going forward?
I mean, it's really not. I was given a relatively small chunk because I was kind of late to the show, I guess. I joined after the MVP had launched. I was really just in charge of bringing the company to market and helping with the design aspects and marketing the product. So I wasn't given too much equity. It was diluted after we gained investment. So I wouldn't call it passive income because I left before the company started really raising a good amount of money. So I wasn't able to get a salary from it. It was just a straight equity deal, and that was different from Orai, where I was put on contract and given cash. And
So at this point, you're not really sort of drawing any type of an income or any kind of money, let's say. I mean, you still have an equity stake though in Trivino or no?
Not much. It didn't vest all the way before I left. Actually, I don't think I really have much at all, but back then I did, and it was fine. But I really prefer working for cash just because it was very tangible. And being a college student working for equity is almost impossible. But working for cash.
So what is the app that you actually own and run today?
It's called Appdotly Consulting, and it's a consulting firm within an app, basically. So I've helped.
But is that a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit. Yeah.
So
all my income is. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so as a nonprofit, are you an employee then taking down a salary in addition to what you're doing with Deloitte in terms of making money with
Appdotly. Yeah, Appdotly. I'm actually not allowed. It's in the company guidebook for Deloitte that I'm not allowed to take a salary from a consulting project outside of Deloitte. It's just against the rules, but I still want to help people launch their apps and their companies because, I mean, I was able to do it with no income, like no cash, no experience or anything. So I figured that there's hundreds or probably thousands of people out there wanting to build apps, and I did it with literally nothing, and it was relatively successful. So
we actually work with a lot of different students. We've had people on to talk a little bit about Tech Girls and helping them sort of get involved in startups and businesses and obviously wanting to sort of do apps. So someone like that would approach your nonprofit and you would actually then help them for free?
Yeah, all the way through the process.
Really?
Ideation all the way to development to launch. Yeah.
And so I'm scratching my head. I'm scratching my head because there's a lot of people out there who either say, gee, I don't know enough people, or I don't have certain skill sets to be able to get going. And what you're telling our listeners right now is that you obviously can only take on a certain number of people as being a full-time Deloitte consultant, but for your nonprofit, in theory, you're willing to sort of help people.
Oh, 100%. It's something I love giving back, and I've never actually turned down a project. They can go on my website. It's appdotly.com, appdotly.com, and message me directly and open up a conversation that I'll help them with anything. Jump on the call. It doesn't matter who it is.
I think that that's awesome, and I didn't know that you were going to be so generous with your time and your help. I think that you're really an awesome resource for the Listenup Show and the people that actually listen to the program. And I know that there's people out there who are obviously going to take you up on that offer. And I think that by being able to give back like that, I think it comes back tenfold. So not only are you able to do this and work, and it says here that you were a 3.5 GPA student. I mean, how have you been able to sort of balance all of this?
How have I?
Sure. It's not easy.
No, it definitely isn't easy. It really comes down to time management. So every day before I start my day early in the morning, I write down all my goals and what I hope to achieve for the day, and then in every 30-minute increment, what exactly I'm doing within those 30 minutes. And I literally plan out my day minute by minute for the most part until I go to bed pretty late at night. When I was running my company and playing baseball and everything, it was a really long day, and there was a lot of mapping out my day, but it's something that really helped me, and then also learning to prioritize. So you can't really do everything at once and in a day. You can't accomplish everything in a day. It's about creating small goals that you can get to that are, the SMART acronym, that are, realistic, time bound, and then, something that you can achieve. And it really came down to time management. It got to the point where it was too much, where I think everyone in the health center at my school knew who I was because I was always in there and I was always staying up and getting sick. But it was definitely possible. I was still, graduating cum laude and playing Division I baseball, all academic team, and, raising money as a sophomore in college and, getting all these honors by Forbes. So it was possible, but the most difficult part was planning out my day and prioritizing and understanding that I can't get to everything within a day, and also prioritizing sleep as well. And those were definitely the most important things.
And those are some of the important, tangible things that you really need to make sure that you're obviously taking care of yourself as well. You like to talk a lot about books. You like books, right, Brady?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The reason why I chose books, sponsor my Fast Pitch Round, that's easy. I love books, and books is owned by a powerful company. Books that stands behind all their product. Books was willing to offer an exclusive free 30-day trial to my podcast listeners with one free audiobook download. If any listener doesn't like their book, Books will exchange it for you, and you can cancel at any time. Books allows you to keep your free download, and you can choose from over 180,000 bestsellers, new releases, classics, and more. I recommend The Last Lecture by Randy Posh. So dream big, get inspired, and listen up. Go on over to mitchellchadrow.com/books. Can you suggest one really good book for our listeners to sort of go out and purchase and that you have found to be really helpful and inspiring to you? And I'll make sure to link to it as well.
So in all my talks, I give recommendations to books to actually learn how to start a company methodically, analytically, systematically, and make sure you're doing everything right. I think the best one is called Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki, and it's known as the Startup Bible. It's what every first-time entrepreneur should read and reread and really understand what's in there, because he literally walks you through everything.
It's funny. I first came to you. I know that you went to Villanova and Villanova Entrepreneurship. I went to law school there. So, when I saw you on YouTube, is that where you learned how to sort of give your presentations and put together your slides?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I just found out that I'm the youngest guest speaker ever at Villanova's Entrepreneurship Center, and I was asked to create my How to Make an App presentation after my freshman year of college, and I've been doing it ever since. And that's really where I've helped the most people, because I usually get a full audience in there, and then I put it on YouTube and send it out. My university usually puts on their social media. I think that's where I can really, I guess, reach economies of scale with how I help people. Apply is really something that is sort of inbound. It's when people come to me and they have questions, but how I can really teach and help people, I think, is through those talks.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have links to all of those YouTube videos. I've watched most of them, and I really, really enjoy it. And I think that what you're doing and what you're offering, whether it be students or people that, let's say, don't have a lot of experience in this space to basically help them, especially in the beginning when they're trying to bootstrap, is really quite amazing. You know, one of our other sponsors is hosting at mitchellchadrow.com/hosting. I know I use HostGator to host all of my websites. Who you would recommend?
Yeah, I think the best one is Wix, Wix.com, to create websites.
Sure.
It's so easy. It's so easy to design and create the website, and then they do pretty much everything for you. But once you reach a certain point where you start having, accounts of people logging in, it's something you should really insource, just because with Wix, it tends to have, the more content you put on, the slower the load time gets. It's just something that Wix is known for, and I'm sure they're working on it. But when you're first starting a company or starting a project or really any sort of website, I think Wix is the best one just because it's incredibly easy and anyone can do it.
Earlier in our conversation, we had talked about graphic designers, and you had mentioned Canva, which again is one of my suggestions. Graphic designer sponsors the wrap-up round, because as a startup podcast, I was not going to hire my own graphic designer, but I needed help with my graphics for all my social media. So if you head on over to mitchellchadrow.com/graphic designer. And so besides Canva, is there someone else that you can recommend in terms of a graphic designer for the audience?
I would recommend finding a really easy way that is professional and can help your developers, create your designs. And by that I mean finding something that you can easily learn, because the more you learn how to design, the better you get an understanding of the user and his or her experience with the app. So Canva is really good when you're not really sure what to do or you don't have a lot of experience, but I would really recommend learning yourself on a application. It's a platform called Sketch, sketch.com, or it might be Sketch app, but it's Sketch. It's a graphic design platform similar to Photoshop, but it's incredibly easy to use. So I would recommend just taking the time and learning Sketch and going.
And how about if somebody also wants to learn how to code? I mean, do you have a recommendation, in terms of that as well?
Yeah. So when first starting out, I think the best one is called Code Academy. It's CODECADEMY, like Code Academy, but one word.com. And that's the best when you're first starting out. Once you get a little bit more advanced, I think Treehouse is a better platform. I believe I'm almost positive the website is teamtreehouse.com. You might put the link there, but Treehouse.
So what is it? I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
Yeah, the link is teamtreehouse.com, and the platform is called Treehouse, and it allows you to create projects and actually create apps in the platform. And it's kind of an alternative way of learning, whereas Code Academy, it literally walks you step by step how to code. And it starts off with the simplest coding language, and that's typically HTML, then you get into CSS and more advanced ones. But when you actually want to do something, build something in an organized framework, Treehouse is the best way to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have a niche site called appsmarter.com, and I was so impressed with your offer for the Listenup Show podcast audience to help them, or to help people who really want to learn more about building apps and to get involved in that niche, that I want to basically also feature you on that site as well. I know that we had talked a little bit about this earlier, but when people want to reach out to you, what is the best way, again, so that I can link up to that as well?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention is Apply is under construction right now. I'm putting more improvements and more walkthroughs and features into it. So I think the best way to reach out to me personally right now is my personal email, which is just BradySActon@gmail.com, BRADYS, my middle initial, and Acton, ACTON @gmail.com, with any sort of questions, concerns, problems that anyone may be having with their app or their venture. I think that's the best way to reach out to me now. Pretty soon, Apply will be up and running again, and they can reach out to there, find how-tos, walkthroughs, etc. on how to create.
At app.ly, correct?
Yeah, so the website is Appdotly.com. Spelled out, Appdotly.com.
Gotcha. No, that's excellent. And in parting, can you leave the audience with 3 main themes, 3 main takeaways that you want to leave us with?
Sure. I think the first one would be, don't be afraid. The greatest thing that holds people back from starting companies and building their apps is fear. What if this hurts my GPA? What if it's not going to be successful? What if I make a fool out of myself and the app sucks? And that's the worst thing that could happen. Overcoming fear and actually building something is actually more impressive than 99% of people that had the idea and didn't build it. And I think that's about 99%. Most people I speak to have great ideas and they pitch it, but they never actually build it because they're afraid. And then second is have small goals. Don't have a grand vision, I would say. So when you're starting an app, everyone obviously wants it to be successful. People want the recognition, status that comes with having a successful app. But having small goals will get you through the really difficult times in starting a company or building an app. So it could be as small as creating a new design for one single page of the app. And if I do that today, then I'll have achieved my goal. And that gives you a sense of pride and encouragement, and I think gets you through the hard times rather than just having one big goal, I want it to be successful. And then third, I would say is I would go back to kind of the emotional side, and that's just relax. A lot of entrepreneurs go through something called trough of sorrow. I don't know if you've heard of that, but most companies will get a pretty sizable user base coming in, a good amount of interest. They might even get an article in the newspaper, and then they go through kind of a downside where they're not getting as much, and it's known in Silicon Valley as the trough of sorrow, and that's really where people's mental health goes down, and they start getting really stressed out, and it hurts their performance, and that's where a lot of co-founders split up, where I think by just taking, any night of the week and just relaxing and, having fun every now and then, most entrepreneurs I know, they work 12 to 14 hours a day, and they're just, it's really hard to be confident and really like what you're doing when you're doing that. So I think the third thing I would say is just have a day to relax, kick back, maybe not work 14 hours on a Friday, maybe only work 6 or 7 and whatnot, because one day isn't going to make or break your startup. You can recover pretty much from anything, and I think cutting back a few hours on a Friday isn't going to hurt you, but it's going to give you that extra boost of encouragement and confidence and well-being that I think you need to propel your startup forward. And it's what a lot of startup entrepreneurs don't really do or practice and don't really want to do, but it, I think, really is detrimental to their startup.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's really excellent advice that you've really provided our audience. I don't think there's any excuse for anybody who wants to sort of do this to sort of go forth, especially given your generous offer. And I know I'll be reaching out to you as well. Everybody has a great idea. Until next time. Subscribe to my email list at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. You will get all the full interview transcripts, my ebook, 30 Tools to Start Up, where I talk about these free resources in show 006. You'll get the startup checklist, education and training materials, and other resources just by signing up at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. Back at mitchellchadrow.com/signup, help me boost the rankings of the Listenup Show, the Startup Entrepreneur Podcast, by providing a well-written review in iTunes. mitchellchadrow.com/iTunes. It helps other people find the show. If you actually need instructions on how to do this, you can find that back at mitchellchadrow.com/signup. Thank you so much for subscribing to my email list and providing a written review on iTunes.